Yeah, we kind of chopped off there real quick, but one of the things that I did want to mention, Devante, is we were talking about, kind of what is happening in the world, and you kind of said a little bit of something earlier that made me think of a verse,
right?
Daniel 12:4.
Okay.
But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. So going back to what we were saying about, the young men, there's so much access, man, to knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, is it real knowledge, good knowledge, fake news, real news? Who knows? Who cares anymore?
That's the trick of it, right?
That's the trick of those phones. These screens that we have in front of us, we're literally at a point right now that we don't know what's true, what's to and fro. We don't know. We literally don't know. Many shall run to and fro. Think about that. What does that mean? That means there are people, just imagine people walking around aimlessly like zombies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then to follow that up, and knowledge shall increase. It doesn't say that knowledge of God. It just says knowledge will increase. And that is what's happening. You have every young person that I personally know right now has the most strongest sense of entitlement that I've ever seen in my life. It's disgusting. They're young. They think they're going to be famous or whatever on whatever, doing whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just not reality. It's not reality.
Yep.
There are a handful of people that, yes, they're going to go after it and they're going to have success. It happens.
Yeah.
But usually that involves talent.
Yeah.
Those people are talented. Your musicians in the world, your artists in the world, and even your your podcasters, these folks that are on here that are, they're putting information out there. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're attempting to do now. And the thing that I think, when I come here and I sit with you, it's always about what can I do to the one individual that might be listening right now? What could I do? What could I say to try to, just get a hook in, man? Because that's what has happened with me in my life.
Yeah.
Is somebody said something or they did something and it just hooked me.
Yeah.
And then it sent me down this path it pulled me out of the to and fro, and it sent me more down the straight and narrow of like, what is real? And, there's you hear a lot of people say karma, right?
Yeah.
Yin and yang, all of those things.
All of them.
All of those things. But it literally says the exact same thing that what our golden rule in the Bible is. Which is give and you shall receive.
Yep.
Right? That doesn't mean give me $10 and you'll get $10 back. But start paying your tithes and see what happens. Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Yeah.
I paid my tithes, and at the time when I was going to church and involved in church, I paid 10% of my money before taxes.
Oh, man, before tax.
My church
That's
loved
like a
me.
solid life.
My church loved me, right? It was a good bit of money. And get this, you know what? Every single Sunday, I took 10 to 15 people out to lunch from the church every week. And I always had money. There was never a time that I was hurting for money. And I had a high mortgage payment. I had a lot of money, financial stuff going on in my life, twice as much as I do now. And every now and then, right now, I find myself running out of money by the time it comes to be a paycheck.
Really?
So the fact of the matter is if the book comes up, and the book comes up, the instruction book, I'll call it, and it says, hey, take this screw and put it right here and connect this piece together, right?
Yeah.
That's knowledge. It's telling you what to do.
Yeah.
So if you'll do it and not argue with it, not debate it, not look for every single reason why when you have no clue what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. Try it. I have been completely broke and destitute, Devontae, and had $20. It's all I had to my name. 2 or 3 days to payday. I took that $20, drove by the church that was close to my house. They had a bucket right out in the front, a drop box. You could drop money in there, and I'd go down and get on my knees right in front of that offering bucket with my last $20 and say, Lord, bless this money. I'm giving it to your kingdom. Please bless me in return. Why? Because give and you shall receive. But what are you giving? You got to give the goodness of your heart. You can't just throw something out there and expect God. Like, God is specific, man.
Yeah.
He's specific.
Super specific.
Didn't we we may have talked about this before. You have to remember the fleece, laying the fleece before God in the Bible. I'd have to do a little research, but laying a fleece before God is literally challenging him. It's putting yourself in a position, fasting, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Literally making a demand on God. But you have to be, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be living this perfect life and you can't eat shrimp or whatever. Forget all that business. Look, if we know the story of David, everybody knows the story of David. David was one of God's favorites, if not, I mean, God loves everybody, but according to the Bible, I believe there's a scripture in there referring to that God deeply loved David.
He's definitely in like the top 15 in there.
And how did he go out?
What was his, as far as
how many wives did he have when he, towards the end there? He literally kind of went and pulled away from what got him to that position of being king. All of what got him there, he strayed away from it. It reminds me of a lot of pastors. They work so hard, they're so diligent, they're so close to God, and then they fall off the deep end, go having an affair with one of their secretaries at church or whatever. I've seen really, really bizarre stuff in ministry happen. Really bizarre. Unfortunately, a lot of it does have to do with sexual, whatever, sexual encouragement or whatever
which is so
sexual desire. There's the word I'm looking for.
I was reading the book of Acts with my life group. We were doing Acts 15 and then earlier Acts 16, and they name some of the things for the people to watch out for. They list sexual immorality, they list the blood, they list 2 other things that I can't remember right now. And it's always the sexual immorality that gets us. We can abstain from all of the other things, but it's always that aspect that is the vice, the grip of, especially for us, for men.
Right.
It's that.
And it's, I mean, yeah, it definitely, for whatever reason, it does seem to be that men are more drawn into that sexual immorality. And you're right. I mean, yes, women nowadays, some of the younger women especially, that are coming up exposed to so much, social media. I mean, the porn is out there. It's so easy to. I mean, I pray to God that parents know.
What's so tough about that too? Not only is it out there, it's not just out there in those areas. I am surprised and shocked at the number of different YouTubers that I watch that used to just be guys that did prank videos, or they started off doing whatever else like thing. And now 5 years later, 10 years later, they, good for them that they've been in it this long. But at this point now, they are starting to do all these collaborations with people that as I Google them, their porn bios coming up, their Pornhub account, all these different things are coming up. And I'm like, oh, this is a porn star. And
oh wow.
And they're having these, these guests on multiple times per, different content creators. So everywhere you're going, you're seeing all the, and this is especially prevalent in the men's spaces. A lot of channels where they discuss how men can be better, how they need to improve. They will bring on girls that are some of the lowest quality girls in terms of they don't believe in any type of structure with family. They just want to go and parade around and just do any and everything that they want.
Jezebel.
Absolutely, 100%. And so another thing that some people have pointed out is that it'll be a lot of girls that are without college degrees, hopping straight onto OnlyFans. And so in the men's spaces,
girls, be careful with that, because it's so easy and it's so popular right now. And can you imagine? It's just that was not around when I was that age.
Right.
It was not.
To where literally right now a boy could have it that if he grew up in a house full of women, every woman in that house could be exposed to the world.
Yeah.
What does that do to the psyche of a young man? What does it do to the psyche of a guy that's going to school and he sees the cheerleaders and he's thinking to himself, man, I would sure pay for her OnlyFans anytime. And like before it,
the knowledge is increasing. Look, the Bible, the book, the instruction book makes it very clear where we're going. We can talk until we're blue in the face, Devontae, and so can everybody else that's a believer that's trying to do the best they can. The fact of the matter is, this world, humanity as we know it, scientifically is coming to an end. Now, when? I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that, because, again, the instruction book says don't even try.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, and you're not going to ever know. So don't try to figure it out. But what we can do is sit back and look at the symptoms. We can see what's happening. We can see the greed. We can see right now a shift to extinguish freedom in the world, not even just in America. In the world, right now there's a huge shift in world power. The West is no longer the strongest power. The East is. China and Russia are now the strongest power. And when you read the book of Revelations, it talks about the armies in the East, the 200 million man army in the East. Right now, China's had that for years. And then you've got, Russia now collaborating with them. And now, Europe is pulling away from us, and they're starting to trade with Russia in their dollars instead of American dollars. So the decline, America has been a melting pot. It's been a science project, so to speak. We're the last frontier. We're the last, great nation, and we're the youngest, right? And the problem is for those who much is given, much is required. But we didn't do that. We didn't, for a little while. But then you also got to go back to the beginning, and the slaughter of Native Americans, the enslavement of African Americans. And it wasn't just whites either that were doing it. Yeah. Native Americans were enslaving
people
blacks.
Don't know that Native Americans and black people had slaves as well.
That's the Seminole tribe. That's literally the Seminole tribe. Is the blacks came came into the swamps of Florida because it was a good place to hide. It was very hard to find those folks, and then they would get welcomed into the Native American culture. So that you have a lot of mixed culture in the Seminole tribe. But just moving on to where, following history, paying attention to history all along, like it just keeps building and building and building.
I think hearing you say all of that, what it just really highlights to me how much, like when we were talking before about how when you wake up, if you're just waking up and starting your day in a rush, if you're just waking up and you're not arming yourself with something, some type of preparedness, if you don't believe in God, guys, well, first, like Tony said, at least just give it a shot, because, I mean, that's how I got started in this thing. When I got started with it, I was just like, you know what? I've been running from this thing for almost 20 years, and look where it got me. You know what? Let me go all in on this thing for 3 to 6 months. Let me just try to be all in, and let me just see what happens.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, this is pretty cool.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, let me do a little bit more. Let me try out this tithing thing. And then boom, you see multiple, like exactly like you say. And so the whole point being, like, as you say, all these things that show, as you say, more knowledge and, everything in there. Starting the day with preparing yourself in something, arming yourself with pieces of wisdom like this, arming yourself with this kind of knowledge here. Like, this is going to be the difference between you being susceptible to all of these things that are coming up around you that present themselves as this free opportunity, all this luxury that you have this access to. This is going to be your ability for you to have control over exactly how you're starting versus everything around you having control of what you're starting with. I was having an interview with a gentleman named Caleb Pickle. That'll be coming out soon. And, we talked about spiritual formation being the act by which, as you grow and develop, your spirit is formed to be in the likeness of Christ. Now, to those that don't believe in Christ, that spiritual formation is still happening. Spiritual formation happens regardless of if you're a believer or not. That's because spiritual formation is, even if we take out the idea of Christ from it, which I do not encourage, spiritual formation is the process by which you become more like that which you worship or idolize, essentially. And so if you are not intentionally making something your idol or worship, you are passively taking in everything that is being distributed to you.
Right.
Unless you come from a family or have some type of ties to people that have exorbitant amounts of power and the ability to influence you greater than society around you, which very few people have that. There are some, but I guarantee if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not one of them. If you are a person that falls into that category of, in your 80% to 90% of Americans, then you want to be arming yourself with something intentionally instead of constantly being in passive mode. And that's the thing that I think that we really have to make sure we're on our toes and on our P's and Q's with is, what are we intentionally arming ourselves with? Are you waking up every day and telling yourself that you want to make sure that you are, let's bring it up again. Are you making sure that you want to supplement your faith with virtue? Are you making sure that you are acquiring knowledge? With this knowledge, is it encouraging you to practice self-control, or is it encouraging you to practice not frivolousness, but what is the when you just go out and do whatever? Debauchery, splurginess. Is it encouraging the opposite of discipline? Is it encouraging steadfastness? When things go crazy, does this stuff tell you to be as emotional as possible, to just let it all out? Or does it encourage?
And you see a lot of that now.
Yeah.
You see it.
And that's the trick too, right? People are being encouraged, especially guys, are being encouraged to be more emotional. Now, here's the thing. There's a way to do that, right? There's a way for us. What is our way? Well, luckily, the Bible tells us right here, continuing, supplement also with steadfastness and godliness, not with OnlyFans, not with Pornhub, not with clubs, not with, all these different things that we have at the edge of our fingertips, at the edge of a credit card.
And being cautious of those friends.
100%.
Friends, your acquaintances and your associates, people that you associate with, that can be a huge detriment. Me personally, I've always been kind of a loner. I was an only child and spent a lot of time alone. And, and I like that. I make mention of the cave and Elijah a lot, because to me, I'm very comfortable in that cave. And it doesn't mean that I'm hiding from the world or anything like that. It means that I'm doing exactly what you just said. I need time. You need time. You can't be going 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Physically, you're going to keel over. You know, if you're out snorting coke and you're running and you're going to the clubs and you're drinking and you're just wild and carefree, you're not going to live that long living like that. And, you know, I see this as an employer. I see people that, you know, come to interview with me, and I have to profile them. I have to look them up and down. And half the time I can tell an addict. I can literally look at you and see, okay, you're on coke, or you're on pills, or you're an alcoholic, or you're this, or you're that, you know? And you know what? Most of the time, because of my Christian values, I say, you know, I'll give you a shot. I mean, I had a guy that came in for interviews, for an interview recently. This guy just got out of prison like a year ago, right? But I happened to notice his bag was open, and I looked down, and he had the Bible in the bag, and it was tattered, man. It was beat up. Because, you know, I got to ask, can you pass a background check? How's your driving record? This and that and the other. This guy's like my age, and he's living at home with his mom. He has no car. His mom literally walked into my warehouse and was like, hey, how long is this going to take? And I'm like, wow, this is a trip. The guy did like a 12-year stretch for armed burglary, and was a drug addict, a complete heroin addict. And I'm looking at him. He looks healthy. He looks like a healthy dude. And when you open up all of that to me, you just exposed yourself. So now we had a moment. And my spirituality connected with your spirituality, because, you know, right off the bat, I'm like, dude, you don't have a car. I can't do anything with you. Yeah. I literally can't do anything with that. I don't have a van to give you, and I would only give a van to a guy that I know has a lot of experience. And I was ready to kind of, you know, move him on out and say, okay, I can't do nothing for you. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call a guy that used to work for me that owns his own company now. He might have some trucks sitting around. Lo and behold, now he's working for him. And they both are working really well together. The old owner, or the guy that used to work for me, is very happy with this guy, because interestingly enough, all his guys left him and came back to work for me in the past 6 months.
Just
I literally took his whole company. And you know what? And, you know, weird things like this happen. I have not seen that guy in 4 years. He was the first person outside of my family that I called to tell him that Michelle had passed. Wow. And he cried on the phone with me a little bit. You know, he was a little bit sad for me. But then he left. He didn't, you know, he thought that maybe I was going to walk away from the company, let the company shut down or whatever, because I was a mess. He didn't know what was going on. Well, then when I was being encouraged to come back and take over the company and really get it going again, one of the first things I said was I need him to go. I need him out of the company.
Wow.
I need him to go, because he had become, in my opinion, problematic. And he knew. Dog. And he knew he was going to start this company, right? So he goes and starts the company, and then here it is 4 years later. I have not talked to him. I ran into him at an estimate. I'm in the customer's house. I look out the window. The customer says, yeah, I have another company coming to give me an estimate. I look out the window, and there he is. Oh, no, it wasn't awkward at all. We walked right up to each other, gave each other a big old bear hug. Really? I was like, hey, man, how you doing? Because I went to shake his hand. He's like, oh, no, you don't. Bring it in. And he hugged me, you know. We were born on the same day and same year. Him and I. I've never met anybody in my life. Same exact birthday. Wow. Same year, same date, same month.
That's wild.
And we always got along. I actually paid for the books that he studied to be able to take his tests to go off and start his own company. Hey, you want to go off and be my competition? Go for it, right? But you know what? You better have your poop in a group, because I didn't feel like he treated employees that great. I didn't feel like he treated customers that great. And look what happened. The employees came back, right?
Yeah.
His customer reviews online are not good. And he's only been in business 2 years, and it's like not good at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to be in business and you're out there dealing with clients and customers, you got to work this into the equation. You got to work these scriptures into that equation, because people see right through you.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear it all the time when I go out and meet customers during estimates. They'll say, you know what? Your price isn't the lowest. It's not the highest. You're right in the middle, but I like you. You seem like an honest guy. That's what I hear over and over and over. And then they tell me stories about the others that had came. Well, this guy was I had absolutely no trust in this person whatsoever. They just kept trying to sell me this and sell me that and sell me this. And you didn't do any of that. I'm like, no, I mean, if something doesn't need to be done, I'm not going to try to sell it to you. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, you know?
Sure.
So, you know, I don't know. It's tough times, Devontae. It's tough times for what I perceive as the world.
Mm-hmm.